Our minds are the world's most complex computer. Within these computers sits data and programming that's been compiled and written by external sources. Programming that we've all received that holds us back. Thought patterns we've developed long ago that linger in our subconscious, sabotaging our desires and getting in the way of our goals. Our minds become clogged with loads of useless and unwanted data. So what is this unwanted mental data that clogs our thinking and perspective? How can we ensure our minds are focusing on the right things and operating smoothly? Number one, analyze false beliefs from external programming. These are walls we've constructed around ourselves over the years with the help of external programming. I've made it a point over the last 4 years to ask others, why haven't you got what you want? Here are a handful of the most common responses I've received and compiled. I am not lucky. I was born poor. I am not healthy. I am too old. I am too young. I did not go to school. I don't have a degree. I don't have enough knowledge. I don't have experience. I don't have skills. There is no opportunity for me. My parents do not support me. I do not have the courage to start. Now, some of you listening may have the same response or a similar response. For those of you that fall into that bucket, I'd like you to ask yourself, is the answer I gave myself the cause as to why I don't get what I want in my life? And if you think the answer you've given yourself, that you've told yourself over all these years, if you think that it's true, then why are there others who in the same situation were able to achieve their dreams? We are all dealt a different hand to play. Just because it doesn't start off great doesn't mean we don't play. And here's the truth. The answers I've mentioned, and many others that are similar, are false beliefs we have about ourselves. So, you may be wondering, how were these false beliefs planted into my subconscious mind? The answer is simple. From the moment we are conceived and start growing, the information we receive is mostly negative programming. And this negative programming contradicts our natural neutral state. As our parent watches movies, listens to songs or the news, and engages in gossip on social media, all of this negative energy gets stored in our subconscious mind, and it accumulates over the years. And here's the big compounding effect. As we grow up, the same programming continues in school through our education. Most of our teachers and friends contribute to this negative messaging. Children are often told that they are undeserving, stupid, unworthy, or destined to fail. Even some well-intentioned teachers unknowingly communicate their own disempowering beliefs to their students. And the negative programming also comes from people who love us, like our parents and siblings, as they communicate the same negative beliefs that they were once taught. By the time we reach high school or go off to college, we are so used to hearing these negative messages And because we are so used to hearing these negative messages, we accept them as normal. And we continue to let ourselves be programmed by an environment that is mostly negative. When we step into our first job, the negativity continues with office politics, arguments, rivalries, and on and on and on. Over the years, we accumulate countless invisible burdens without even realizing it. And what's crazy is that our energy becomes so heavy that it stops us from achieving or attracting our dreams. Our beliefs and mindset are more important in determining the course of our lives than any tools and strategies that we adopt. Once we release our invisible burdens, we can easily learn and apply the tools for success. Number 2, start unfollowing. What we feed our mind matters. We need to consume content to improve our lives, not to avoid our life. Our world is filled with distractions and junk food. We turn on the TV, distractions and junk food. We jump on our phones and open Facebook or Twitter or TikTok, distractions and junk food. We are bombarded with junk that notoriously takes us further away from clarity. If our social feed is clogged with memes about rushing towards the weekend or poking at anxiety rather than a resource to help manage it, or mocking accountability and running away from commitments, eventually the repetition of those things will ultimately influence our behaviors. See, our mind is no different than our stomach. Just as what we eat greatly influences our weight, our health, and our thinking, so do the things that we feed our mind. Think about the content you consume as food. My Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, TikTok, and podcast feed is extremely filtered. I do not consume junk food. And I want to be clear, I'm not saying that what I consume is better than what you consume. We all have our things that we are particularly fond of and subjects that we enjoy more than maybe the next person. And whatever that thing is, expand on it, double down on it. We need to get rid of the thoughtless videos and negative videos. We need to unfollow friends that are always negative, or an uncle that is the woe is me person, or that friend that constantly blames everything else around them rather than taking accountability. Most of us don't realize the implications this has on our thinking and mental health. Over time, this negative and toxic content seeps in, and subconsciously we start thinking, reacting, and behaving in a similar manner. Our mindset starts to become fixed. What we feed our mind is critical. I've spent the last 4 or 5 years being very thoughtful of the people I follow online, the pages I follow, the friends in my circle, and the content I consume. I know that if I fill my feed with positivity, love, business, entrepreneurship, creativity, nature, empathy, that anytime I find myself exploring my feed, it's filled with food that I know is good for my mental health and happiness. Anytime and anywhere I turn, I see positivity rather than hate, separation, darkness, negativity. Feed your brain the right food and it will thank you later. And unfollow people who do not make you feel empowered, informed, or inspired. Number 3, be selectively social. Being selective socially means that we are intentionally keeping our social circle smaller. We intentionally choose our friends carefully and only hang out with those who make us happy and bring meaning to our lives. Friendships are like an investment. Pick the right ones and both parties are rewarded. Now, I want to be clear. This does not mean that we are a recluse, a loner, or an antisocial person. It means that we select our friendships and our circle carefully. It means those that we establish relationships with and bring into our circle are meaningful. It means those around us are reliable. It also means that these individuals have similar passions and goals in their life, which means that we can be ourselves in their company. So, what does this all boil down to? It means that we seek to form meaningful bonds with other people, not superficial connections. Now, this approach to our social efforts offers a lot of benefits. First, we don't waste time on the wrong people or pointless social activities. We can be confident that we surround ourselves only with trustworthy, like-minded individuals who add value to our life, which means that we form more meaningful bonds with other people. And this ultimately translates into greater happiness and life satisfaction. Second, because those individuals are like-minded and share similar goals and have a similar mindset, it means we avoid conversations wrapped in negativity, gossip, drama, judgment, playing the victim, anger. We remove the toxic liquid that seeps into our thinking, our perspective, our mind. This allows us to understand how much opportunity truly sits in front of us. It allows us to see potential in everything we interact with. It allows us to see greater potential in ourselves. It allows us to lean into curiosity rather than shutting off our mind. All of this means that the world starts to feel bigger. It means that we allow ourselves to dream again, to feel inspired. We feel lifted and lighter to not just float towards our dreams, but reach heights we once thought were impossible. Number 4, live in the moment and watch your thoughts. We need to remember that we cannot change the past, but we can shape the present. We accomplish this by staying grounded in the present, by shifting our focus to things that are within our control. It's critical that we are aware of our thought patterns. Being focused on the negatives is a normal human tendency, as we discussed earlier. But the danger with this mindset is that it prevents us from enjoying the positives, truly enjoying life. We need to learn to notice when we are holding on to a negative thought and find ways to refocus on kindness and gratitude. Most of the time, when we are smack dab in the middle of a stressful situation, or before we are about to enter one, waves of thoughts start rushing through our minds as if someone pulled a lever to lift the dam that was holding back all of these worst case scenario thoughts, those what ifs. And in that moment of these negative thoughts flowing and filling up our lake, our mind, we tend to become extremely overwhelmed, defeated, deflated. We start to question our ability to push through. This is where we start to self-sabotage. This is clinically known as catastrophic thinking. So, what are some things that we can do in the moment to break this cycle? What are some things that we can ask ourselves to pull in the life jacket of reality. Ask yourself these 4 questions. Is this likely to happen? This allows us to question the likelihood of these thoughts becoming reality. Is this a rational thought? 99.99% of the time, these thoughts are irrational. They sound somewhat rational in the moment as our mind is grasping at straws. Has this ever happened to me before? Most likely, you've been presented with a similar, if not the exact same situation you are faced now, and you can overcome it or surpass it as you did before, which means you'll likely do it again. Next, what's the worst that can happen? Can I handle that? Whatever the honest answer is for the worst case scenario, you'll likely be able to handle it. Remind yourself of all that you've faced before and that you've overcome. A bonus question that can be asked: am I going to allow this situation to steal my peace? I love the power of this question because the answer is so obvious. The question allows us to capture the impact of allowing any stressful situation to eat away at us. These 5 questions allow us to be honest with ourselves. They allow reality to take over. They allow us to squash negative thoughts. They allow us to start flooding our mind with what's real, which crowds out those false thoughts. They flush our minds. They snap us back into reality. They also allow us to boost our confidence in the moment, which means that we'll be able to address things with our best self. These stressful situations can trigger us to think that a problem is impossible to overcome. Now, there may be certain aspects of a problem that are impossible to solve, but I guarantee there are certain aspects that are solvable. And when we focus on the components of the problem that are solvable, we can highlight control, which means that we'll feel more confident, which means that we'll be able to lower the level of stress, even opening more clarity to solve the problem on an even more efficient level. Our mind is our greatest tool. That means that we need to properly take care of it. If we continually clean, lubricate, upgrade parts, and take care of our most important tool, it ends up taking care of us.